Extraordinary. Thank you. Wow. Good morning, and welcome to First Parish in Brookline. Welcome back, whether you've been coming for decades or just joined us. And a very warm welcome to those who are here for the first time. It is good to see everyone on this dreary morning. I'm Susan Larrabee, and I'm one of the worship associates here at First Parish. Leading the service this morning is our senior minister, Reverend Lisa Perry-Wood. First Parish is a welcoming Unitarian Universalist congregation, open and affirming to all people. Whoever you are, whatever your gifts or abilities may be, however you identify, your gender or sexual orientation, wherever your life and faith journey has taken you, you are welcome here. Today is our annual all-ages Thanksgiving service, so the children will stay in worship for the whole time. For the youngest children, 7 years or younger, nursery care is also available, and it happens downstairs. After the service, everyone is invited to our Thanksgiving potluck in Lion Chapel. There's plenty of food, so please join us, whether you are able to bring a dish or not. Help us eat. Everyone is welcome to sit at our table.
Good morning. I'm jumping in here to say that we had planned to recess outside at the end of our service today to dedicate our new Black Lives Matter banner. Unfortunately, the weather is not cooperating with our plan, so the Racial Justice Committee has decided to reschedule that event. We'll let you know when there's going to be a future date. Let us remember that today and every day, the lives, especially of young Black men, are lost, and this continues to be a national tragedy. And that the statement, Black Lives Matter, is a rallying cry for all Black lives striving for liberation. Please watch again for the date to be rescheduled.
If this is your first time visiting us or you haven't done so before, please take a moment to fill out one of the yellow visitor cards that you find in the pews and place it in the offering plate as it comes around. We're really very glad you're here today. Welcome, one and all.
This year, we have embraced the importance of opening our gatherings with a land or territorial acknowledgement, a statement that clearly identifies and honors the people who were here on this land centuries before white Europeans colonized this territory. Our second UU principle calls us to affirm and promote justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. As Ann Gilmore reminded us a couple of weeks ago, this principle asks us to be learners, to understand the history of the people and places where we work and live. Each of us has a responsibility to confront the past in a thoughtful and intentional way. It isn't enough to recognize the indigenous peoples on whose lands we are meeting, without also recognizing the colonization and trauma that has been experienced for generations of indigenous people throughout the United States. Indigenous people are still here, and their lands are still occupied. Here is our acknowledgement. We are gathered here at First Parish in Brookline on the ancestral land of the Massachusetts people, who lived here for at least 12,000 years before the Europeans came. Their traditional homeland was spread out across what we now call the greater Boston area, as well as suburbs and towns to the west and south of Boston. The name Massachusetts is an Algonquin word, meaning at the foothills of the Great Hills, referring to the Blue Hills overlooking Boston Harbor from the south, a sacred and ceremonial area. A community of Massachusetts people continue to live in the area of Ponkapoag, also known as Canton. To the south of the Massachusetts are their traditional neighbors, the Wampanoags, and to the west, the Nipmucks. It is good for us, a majority white congregation, to make this acknowledgement, but it is far from enough. There's always a need for repair, for work to set things right in ways large and small. So I offer this to you as well. This past week, hearings were held on legislation to study a change to our state flag and seal, which currently depict a Native American with the disembodied arm of Miles Standish holding a sword over his head. This symbol depicts a shameful history and is a blight on our state. Many of us were shocked when we actually realized that it was there. Hartman Dietz, Ann Gilmore's grandson, has suggested that instead our state embrace a peace tree symbol. That seems a very generous offer from a member of the Wampanoag tribe. In the spirit of our second principle, recognizing our commitment to justice and equity, and with generosity, gratitude, and compassion, let us commit to working together to right this wrong. It seems the least we can do. Now the speakers line up who are going to join in this responsive prayer. Today, in song, meditation, story, and ritual, we will acknowledge, honor, and offer gratitude and compassion, and share together the gifts we have been given. We begin by offering this sacred invocation. The Haudenosaunee Thanksgiving Address is subtitled, Words Before All Else, Greetings to the Natural World. The Thanksgiving Address is the central prayer and invocation for the Haudenosaunee, also known as the Iroquois Confederacy or Six Nations, the Mohawk, Oneida, Cayuga, Onondaga, Seneca, and Tuscarora. It reflects their relationship of giving thanks for the life and the world around them. The Haudenosaunee open and close every social and religious meeting with the Thanksgiving Address. It is also said as a daily sunrise prayer and is an ancient message of peace and appreciation of Mother Earth and her inhabitants. The children learn that, according to Native American tradition, people everywhere are embraced as family. Our diversity, like all wonders of nature, is truly a gift for which we are thankful. When one recites the Thanksgiving Address, the natural world is thanked, and in thanking each life-sustaining force, one becomes spiritually tied to each of the forces of the natural and spiritual world. The Thanksgiving Address teaches mutual respect, conservation, love, generosity, and responsibility, to understand that what is done to one part of the web of life, we do to ourselves. You may follow along with the words on the insert that you'll find in the order of your order of service. After each of the expressions of thanks, we will all together repeat the phrase, "Now our minds are one." And so we begin.
The people. Today we have gathered and we see that the cycles of life continue. We have been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living things. So now we bring our minds together as one, as we give greetings and thanks to each other as people.
Now our minds are one.
The Earth Mother. We are all thankful to our mother, the Earth, for she gives us all that we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk upon her. It gives us joy that she continues to care for us as she has from the beginning of time. To our mother, we send greetings and thanks.
Now our minds are one.
The waters. We give thanks to all the waters of the world for quenching our thirst and providing us with strength. Water is life. We know its power in many forms. waterfalls and rain, mists and streams, rivers and oceans. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the Spirit of water. Now our minds
are one.
The fish. We turn our minds to all the fish, life in the water. They were instructed to cleanse and purify the water. They also give themselves to us as food. We are grateful that we can still find pure water. So we turn now to the fish and send our greetings and thanks. Now our minds are one.
The plants. Now we turn toward the vast fields of plant life. As far as the eye can see, the plants grow, working many wonders. They sustain many life forms. With our minds gathered together, we give thanks and look forward to seeing plant life for many generations to come. Now our minds are one.
With one mind, we turn to honor and thank all the food plants we harvest from the garden. Since the beginning of time, the grains, vegetables, beans, and berries have helped the people survive. Many other living things draw strength from them too. We gather all the plant foods together as one and send them a greeting of thanks.
Now our minds are one.
The medicine herbs. Now we turn to all the medicine herbs of the world. From the beginning, they were instructed to take away sickness. They are always waiting and ready to heal us. We are happy there are still among us those special few who remember how to use these plants for healing. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the medicines and to the keepers of the medicines. Now our minds are one.
The animals. We gather our minds together to send greetings and thanks to all the animal life in the world. They have many things to teach us as people. We are honored by them when they give up their lives so that we may use their bodies as food for our people. We see them near our homes and in the deep forests. We are glad they are still here, and we hope that it will always be so.
Now our minds are one.
The trees. We now turn our thoughts to the trees. The earth has many families of trees who have their own instructions and uses. Some provide us with shelter and shade, others with fruit, beauty, and other useful things. Many people of the world use a tree as a symbol of peace and strength. With one mind, we greet and thank the tree of life.
Now our minds are one.
The birds. We put our minds together as one and thank all the birds who move and fly about over our heads. The Creator gave them beautiful songs. Each day they remind us to enjoy and appreciate life. The eagle was chosen to be their leader. To all the birds, from the smallest to the largest, we send our joyful greetings and thanks.
Now our minds are one.
We are all thankful to the powers we know as the four winds. We hear their voices in the moving air as they refresh us and purify the air we breathe. They help us to bring the change of seasons. From the four directions they come, bringing us messages and giving us strength. With one mind, we send our greetings and thanks to the four winds.
Now our minds are one.
The thunderers. Now we turn to the west, where our grandfathers, the thunder beings, live. With lightning and thundering voices, they bring with them the water that renews life. We are thankful that they keep those evil things made by aquacultures underground. We bring our minds together as one to send greetings and thanks to our grandfathers, the thunderers.
Now our minds are one.
The sun. We now send greetings and thanks to our eldest brother, the sun. Each day, without fail, he travels the sky from east to west, bringing the light of a new day. He is the source of all the fires of life. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to our brother, the sun.
Now our minds are one.
Grandmother Moon. We put our minds together to give thanks to our oldest grandmother, the moon, who lights the nighttime sky. She is the leader of women all over the world, and she governs the movement of ocean tides. By her changing face, we measure time, and it is the moon who watches over the arrival of children here on earth. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to our grandmother, the moon. Now our minds are one. The stars. We give thanks to the stars who are spread across the sky like jewelry. We see them in the night, helping the moon to light the darkness and bringing dew to the gardens and growing things. When we travel at night, they guide us home. With our minds gathered together as one, we send greetings and thanks to the stars.
Now our minds are one.
The enlightened teachers. We gather our minds to greet and thank the enlightened teachers who have come to help throughout the ages. When we forget how to live in harmony, they remind us of the way we were instructed to live as people. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to these caring teachers.
Now our minds are one.
The Creator. Now we turn our thoughts to the Creator, or Great Spirit, and send greetings and thanks for all the gifts of creation. Everything we need to live a good life is here on this Mother Earth. For all the love that is still around us, we gather our minds together as one and send our choicest words of greetings and thanks to the Creator.
Now our minds are one. We have now arrived at the place where we end our words. Of all the things we have named, it was not our intention to leave anything out. If something was forgotten, we leave it to each individual to send such greetings and thanks in their own way. Now our minds are one. And now come, dear friends, into this beloved and sacred space, and let us worship together. And please join in singing our opening hymn, number 1010, O We Give Thanks, rising as you are willing and or able.
At this time, I would like to invite Ben Davis Ellie and Trey Bradish to come forward to light the chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith the world over. As they light the chalice, please join me in our unison affirmation printed in your order of service, in Spanish and then in English. Nos agregamos y nos comprometemos a caminar juntos como congregación, prometiendo con mucha fe cuidarnos mutuamente y deleitarnos en el amor que permanecerá entre nosotros. We give ourselves one unto another, covenanting to walk together as a congregation, promising faithfully to watch over one another and to delight for love to abide in our midst. Each week, we also light 2 candles of peace and hope, each candle representing a different place on earth that we want to lift up and remember this morning as a sacred encounter with the world. Today, we remember 2 places that we especially hold close in this service and through the week ahead. After each of the candles is lit, we'll speak the words for peace in English, Arabic, and Hebrew. Peace, salam, shalom. Our candle of peace is lit for Zimbabwe, where the United Nations warns that 5.5 million residents, nearly a third of Zimbabwe's population, are at risk of food shortages due to a devastating drought brought on by climate change. The World Food Program warns, quote, "People are marching toward starvation if we are not here to help them." May the nation of Zimbabwe receive the aid their people urgently need, and may this latest example of climate crisis continue to move us to action. Peace, salam, shalom. Our candle of hope is lit for Arizona, where through the tireless efforts of activists, including many faith leaders, Scott Warren, who was accused of 2 felonies for supplying clothing, food, and water to undocumented immigrants seeking shelter in the desert, was acquitted on both counts. As his lawyer said, Warren's purpose was to keep people safe who otherwise stood a good chance of dying. May justice continue to prevail in the protection of all those who seek refuge here. Peace, salam, shalom.
Gracias.
any of our kids aren't already up front, why don't you all come and join us for the Time for All Ages? Anyone else? All right. Good morning, all. Good morning. One more time. Good morning, all.
Good morning.
So today, we are going to tell you a story. But I want to give you I want to give you a task before we start the story. Okay, a task is a thing, it's really a challenge. I want to challenge you to find the important part in the story in your mind so that at the end, you might have a better idea of what we're doing in worship today. So here's the challenge. Today, we're talking about giving thanks and gratitude. So as you hear the story, I want you to listen very closely, and I want you to think about what the story tells you about giving thanks and gratitude. Okay? Does everyone feel like they can do that? Does everyone understand the challenge? Yes? All right. So the story is called The Bear, the Salmon, and the River. Okay? One time, before there were any people walking around this valley, there were bear people. And they had an agreement with the salmon. The salmon would come upriver every fall, and the bears would honor them and take only what they needed. This is the way it was with everything. Everyone lived with certain agreements and kindnesses.
But the salmon people and the bear people had made no agreement with the river. It had been overlooked. No one thought it was even necessary. Well, it was. One fall, the river pulled itself back into the shore trees and wouldn't let the salmon enter from the ocean. Whenever the salmon would try, the river would pull back and leave the salmon stranded on the beach.
So there was a long argument and a lot of talking. And finally, the river agreed to let the salmon enter. But when the salmon got up into the country where the bears lived, the river began to run in two directions at once, north on one side and south on the other, roaring and heaving with white water and rolling big boulders up onto the banks. And then the river was suddenly still. The salmon were afraid to move.
The bears were standing behind the trees looking out. The river said in the middle of a deep silence that there had to be an agreement. No one could just do something, whatever they wanted. You couldn't just take someone for granted.
So, for several more days, they spoke about it. The salmon said who they were and where they came from. And the bears spoke about what they did, what powers they had been given. And the river spoke about its agreements with the rain and the wind and the crawfish and so on. Everyone said what they needed and what they would be willing to give away.
Then a very odd thing happened. The river said it loved the salmon. Well, no one had ever said anything like this before. No one had taken this chance. The bears said that they adored the river with its meandering route, and how light flashed on the waves and the white water. And we're grateful for the salmon that leapt above the surface, making their way home.
The salmon said that they enjoyed the cool push and glide in the waters of the river when it got deep. And they liked the dark brown fur of the bears. It was an honesty that had pleased everyone. And it made for a very deep agreement among them. So in worship, we are now about to, hear some more singing, and we're about to turn to worship. But before you go back to your seats or stay in this space, whichever is your choice, I want to give you a minute to think about your challenge. Maybe not a minute. It's going to be more like 20 seconds, okay? So we're going to stay here for about 20 seconds and think about the story and what the story might be telling you about gratitude and thanksgiving. And if you are at the potluck afterwards, I would encourage you to share what you learned with someone at the potluck. And if you're not going to stay for the potluck, I want you to talk about it in your family this week, okay? So we're going to have about 20 seconds to think about it. And then I'm going to invite us to move to the next thing, okay? Our time is going to start now. And let's use this time in a quiet way to think.
Our offering this morning will be shared with the Brookline Food Pantry, which provides free food to Brookline families and individuals in need. Housed at St. Paul's Episcopal Church at 15 St. Paul Street, the food pantry is open Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. If you wish, you can also support the food pantry with donations of specific goods. You'll find a list on their website. The offering will now be gratefully received. And if you're visiting First Parish for the first time today, please feel free to let the basket pass you by. We're just delighted you're with us.
I am grateful for the things that you have done. Yes, I'm grateful for the victories we've won. I could go on and on and on about your works, because I'm grateful, grateful, so grateful just to praise you. Flowing from my heart are the issues of my heart is gratefulness. Ooh. grateful for the things that you have done. Yes, I'm grateful for the victories we've won. I could go on and on and on and on about your works, because I'm grateful, grateful, so grateful. I'm grateful to praise you. Flowing from my heart, yes, are the issues of my heart is gratefulness. I want to invite you into this experience, whatever gratefulness and gratitude means to you. I'm going to teach you this next section, and if you are willing, I hope you'll sing with me. Grateful, 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 gratefulness is flowing from my heart. Grateful, 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 gratefulness is flowing from my heart. Grateful, 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 yeah, great, yeah, grateful, 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 gratefulness is flowing. Grateful, 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 gratefulness is flowing from my heart, flowing from my heart. Yes, are the issues of my heart is gratefulness.
Well, we are grateful to our wonderful soloists and choir this morning. Thank you. For all that you have so generously given and all that we have received, we are truly grateful. And we say thank you.
Good morning, First Parish, Brookline. My name is Noah McIntyre, and I am a very grateful member of First Parish here in Brookline. I invite you into a space of meditation this morning, and if you would like to put your hand on your heart, I invite you to do so. I'm inviting you to discover the gratitude that you have for yourself this morning, and as I share a poem that I wrote for you, I invite you into meditation. My Thanksgiving poem for you. I am here to let you know you are loved by me and the people in your life. We care for one another as we let the love of each other into our homes this Thanksgiving. As we let their love into our homes, let us let our own love into our heart. Let us discover what we love about ourselves. Let us start by giving thanks for our breath, breathing in, breathing out, and the courage to keep living and to keep breathing. Think of one more part of you to give thanks for, and then another and another. Appreciate yourself today, being open to your love for another to come back to you. You receiving your own love is the wellspring for the gratitude and love you share with others. Remember, we belong to one another. As you give thanks for your loved ones today, remember the sacrifices of others that makes being together possible for us today. And give thanks for our food and all the people who grew the food and harvested the food, and for all of those who brought the food to us. Give thanks. Give thanks for the love and connection that brought you into life itself. Be grateful that your family by blood and or your family of choice is here with you today. Give thanks for those you miss today, for those you remember. The love you have for them brings that part of them that lives in you here to be loved and remembered. And to all the lives of many, many generations to come, give thanks for the love and faith to carry on life that you give to those you love today. Keep life going with your gratitude, dear friends. Keep life going with your gratitude.
Now please rise as you are willing and able and join in singing For All That Is Our Life. In her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, Robin Kimmerer retells the Mayan creation tale, People of Corn, People of Light. The story goes that the divine beings imagined the world into existence just by saying its name. Plants and animals were called into being by words, but the gods were not satisfied, so they set about to create humans. The first people they shaped out of mud, but they were not formed very well, they were ugly, and they quickly fell apart. Next, they tried to create good people, givers of praise and nurturers. They made a man out of a piece of wood and a woman out of a reed. But though they were beautiful and clever, their hearts had no feelings, no love. So the gods started again. This time, they tried making beings out of pure light. They were dazzling to behold, beautiful, smart, and powerful, but they had no compassion, no gratitude for the gifts that they had been given. So the gods tried once more to fashion people who would live in respect and gratitude and humility. From 2 baskets of corn, they ground a fine meal, mixed it with water, and shaped a people out of corn. These people could dance and sing. They had stories to tell. They offered up prayers. Their hearts were filled with compassion. The people of corn were the ones who were grateful for the world that sustained them, and so they were the people who were sustained upon the earth. Many Native American traditions, stories, and ceremonies surround corn, one of the 3 sisters, maize, beans, and squash. New England tribes from the Mohegan in Connecticut to the Iroquois in the Great Lakes region had rituals and ceremonies of thanksgiving for the planting and the harvesting of corn. Corn, or maize, is a domesticated plant of the Americas. Along with other indigenous plants like beans, squash, melons, and tobacco, European colonists in America adopted maize agriculture from Native Americans. Over thousands of years, Native Americans transformed maize, turning it from a wild grass, teosinte, originally growing in Central America 7,000 years ago. Native Americans of northern New England gradually encouraged the formation of ears at the lower joints of the stalk by planting kernels from those ears. Eventually, as ears were regularly produced at the lower joints of the cornstalk, the crop was adapted to the shorter growing season of the north, maturing within 3 months of planting, which is what we know now. Slowly, the cultivation of maize was introduced into North America. The practice of maize agriculture didn't reach New England until about 1,000 years ago. Native Americans discovered that, unlike wild plants and animals, a surplus of maize could be grown and harvested without harming their environment. Tribes in southern New England harvested great amounts of maize and dried them in heaps on mats. Eventually, maize cultivation was strong enough to make it possible for a family to produce food for the bulk of their diet for an entire year from just a small area. Now, apples have their own history in this country. North American apple harvesting began with the settlers at Jamestown in 1607. They brought seeds and cuttings from Europe, and while the original varieties planted weren't suited for cultivation here, their seeds began to produce new varieties of American apples. Many of these apples were still fairly bitter, unlike the sweet varieties we enjoy today. But they had an important purpose in colonial society, and that was cider. Cider had become a popular beverage in England. The colonists brought their taste for cider with them. Most grew their own apples, and due to sanitation concerns, they often served fermented cider at meals instead of water, including diluted cider for the children. Cider became so popular, it was sometimes used to pay salaries, and a Virginia statesman once remarked that the cider produced from his orchard of 2,500 trees was more valuable than 15,000 pounds of tobacco. If we were to explore more Native American foods, it would help us reconnect with the nature around us. We could work with Native American growers producing heirloom beans, squash, and pumpkins, native corn varieties, all coming in many shapes and sizes and colors. We could have our feasts include dishes like cedar braised rabbit, sunchokes with sumac, pine stewed venison, smoked turkey with chestnuts, true wild rice with foraged mushrooms, native squash with maple, smoked salmon, and wild teas. Sounds wonderful. No matter where we are in North America, we are on indigenous land. So on this holiday, and any day really, we are urged to explore a deeper connection to what are called American foods by understanding true Native American histories and begin using what grows naturally around us and support Native American growers as we find them. There's no need to make Thanksgiving about a false past. It's so much better when it celebrates the beauty of the present. This morning we began by lifting up the Haudenosaunee prayer of thanksgiving, offering greetings and thanks to all the elements of our world. Like the bear, the salmon, and the river story that Lacey and Judd told us, we've learned that we must be grateful and respectful for all that sustains us if we wish to remain in health and right relationship with the earth around us. We can emulate the people of the corn, filling our hearts with compassion and being grateful for the world around us. Like them, may we be sustained upon this earth. Now we prepare to enjoy the fruits of our local harvest. We honor and give thanks for the peoples who cultivated these foods. Cornbread from corn that nourished and sustained through cold, hard winters, and cider from apples both tart and sweet. And so we begin our ceremony.
Those who rarely go hungry sometimes take food for granted. It's just there, waiting for us when we get to the table.
It's just there, waiting for us in endless abundance, arranged neatly and attractively on the shelves of our supermarket.
It can be easy to forget that no matter how many millers and processors and butchers and bakers put their mark on it in the in-between, all food comes from the land and the sea.
And so today, we stop for a moment and pay attention. We stop in the middle of our holiday, hurrying and take time to feel the connection between our bodies and the earth that nourishes us.
We will reflect on that connection by feasting together on this cornbread and cider, gifts from the earth. We will pass these gifts of the earth around so that all have a piece of cornbread and some cider. And once everyone has been served, we will bless our feast with the words up on the screen. And then we will eat together.
As the ushers come forward and pass the gifts among you, please take a cup of cider and a cup of cornbread, and we will sing together Blue Boat Home while we pass out our gifts. You'll find that in your teal hymnal, number 1064. Sue. Let's lift up our gifts. Be sure that everyone has some. I can still see some being passed. Just wait a moment here. Thank you. And now let us bless our feast together with this unison blessing. This cornbread and this cider are gifts of Mother Earth. May these symbols of abundance nourish our spirits and strengthen us to build the community of love, joy, and service that we intend. As we eat together, we recommit ourselves to transforming our world into one where people from every land find welcome, where all have enough, and where no one is left hungry at life's table. And now let us enjoy the gifts of our good and abundant earth together. At the end of the service, you will find a receptacle on your way out. You can toss your cups in there if you would. And now, please rise as you are willing and able and join in singing our closing hymn, This Little Light of Mine.
Please join me in our unison affirmation as Reverend Lisa extinguishes the chalice. We extinguish the flame and not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us and offer as gifts unto the world.
Now please take the hand or touch the shoulder or elbow of somebody near you for our closing words and benediction. Dear friends, go forth in simplicity. Find and walk the path that leads to compassion and wisdom, that leads to happiness, peace, and ease. Welcome the stranger. Open your heart to a world in need of healing. Be courageous before the forces of hate. Hold and embody a vision of the common good that serves the needs of all people. And now, take all that we have shared here this morning out into the world and be a blessing to all those you meet, and may you yourselves be blessed. Amen.